Black Marlene Holt stood in her warm, sunlit kitchen in East Point, Atlanta, sorting fabrics and thread for the weekend craft fair at Piedmont Park. At 58, quilting had become her peace, her sanctuary ever since her husband, Black Raymond Holt, passed 2 years ago. But peace didn't last long today because her daughter was acting strange. Black Tiana Holt, 25, appeared in the doorway, her shoulders held tight like she was trying too hard to look relaxed. The early September breeze drifted through the open window, but Tiana's forehead still glistened with sweat. "Hey, Ma," she said with a voice that was too cheerful. "You getting ready for the fair?" Marlene kept folding her handcrafted quilts, but her teacher instincts honed. From 25 years working in Atlanta public schools were screaming that something was off. Tiana kept glancing at the sewing box, stopped, then away, then back, like it was calling her. "Name, mind if I check out your new patterns?" Tiana asked, already moving toward the box before Marlene could answer. Her breathing was fast. Her fingers trembled. She acted like a child, pretending everything was normal. Except nothing about her behavior felt normal. Marlene watched her carefully, keeping her own movements slow, calm, natural. She pretended to organize scissors while observing every detail. Then it happened. Tiana's right hand slid into her jacket pocket. She pulled out something small, wrapped in brown paper. Her movement quick and slick, too slick. She lifted the lid of the sewing box and slipped the package deep into the main compartment, shoving it under layers of fabric scraps and thread. SPOOL. It took less than 10 seconds. 10 seconds that felt like watching a crime take place in her own kitchen. Marlene's heart pounded so hard she felt it in her throat, but she kept her face steady, pretending not to notice. Tiana stepped back quickly, wiping her palms on her jeans like she was cleaning guilt off them. "Well, I should let you finish," she said, already backing toward the door. "Good luck at the fair, Ma. Sell lots." Marlene listened as her daughter's footsteps faded upstairs, the air going still and heavy around her. Only distant traffic and her own uneasy breathing filled the silence. She stared at her sewing box like it had turned into something dangerous. Whatever Tiana had hidden inside. She didn't want Marlene finding it now, but she clearly expected her to find it later, and that was the part that didn't make sense, unless Tiana wanted her to find it at the worst possible moment. The truth hit Marlene like a blow to the chest. Her own daughter, her baby girl, had just planted something in her belongings. Something meant to cause trouble. Something that could ruin her. The signs over the past months suddenly came roaring back. The mood swings, the sleepless eyes, the money problems. She kept hiding. The lies she told with a straight face. Marlene had blamed it all on grief, on life being hard, on Tana missing her father, but love could make you blind. And right now, staring at that sewing box, Marlene realized she had been blind for far too long. Something was terribly wrong with her daughter and whatever was wrapped in that brown paper. It was about to change everything. Standing in her quiet kitchen now, staring at the sewing box that felt like it held a ticking bomb. Black Marlene Holt replayed the night before. The moment she should have realized this was coming. It had started like any ordinary Thursday evening in East Point. The smell of garlic butter, pasta drifted through the house, mixing with the crisp Georgia fall breeze slipping through the cracked window. For a brief moment, it almost felt like the old days before Black Raymond Holt passed, when he'd stroll out of the den joking that Marlene was taking too long with dinner. But Raymond was gone, and the empty chair at the small wooden dining table felt heavier than ever. Tiana sat across from her, barely touching her food, pushing pasta around her plate instead of eating. Her hands shook when she grabbed her water glass. Marlene thought it was work stress. Tiana hadn't been steady in months. "Ma, I need to talk to you about something." Her voice was low, small, almost trembling. Marlene recognized that tone instantly. She'd heard it from countless students who were about to confess something they weren't proud of. But this was her daughter, her only child. "What is it, baby?" Tiana took a breath, her fingers tapping an anxious rhythm against the table. "I'm in trouble, Ma. Money trouble. I need $30,000. Marlene froze. $30,000. Her fork slipped from her hand, clinking against the plate. In the soft dining room light, Tiana looked older than her age-dark circles under her eyes, cheekbones sharper than they used to be. Grief, stress, fear, all mashed together. $30,000. Marlene whispered, "Tiana, that's more money than I have. What kind of trouble are you in?" Something flashed across Tiana's face, fear mixed with anger, so fast Marlene almost missed it. "Does it matter?" She snapped. "I'm your daughter. I need help." "Of course it matters. I've been helping you for months, rent money, the car, groceries." Marlene's voice shook with hurt. "Where's all this money going?" Tiana stood suddenly chair, scraping the hardwood floor, sharp and loud. "You don't understand. These people aren't patient. They're not waiting around while you figure things out." "What people, Tiana?" But Tiana was already stepping away, heading toward the stairs. "Forget it. I'll find another way." "Tiana." But the only response was a door slamming upstairs. Marlene sat alone at the table, surrounded by untouched pasta and a terrifying new reality creeping into her chest. She cleaned dishes, went through her nightly routine, but every sound from the room above, every creaking floorboard, every muffled phone call felt wrong. Too quiet, too secretive, too desperate. Now. 16 hours later, standing in her kitchen, staring at the sewing box, those urgent whispers suddenly made perfect sense. Last night wasn't a cry for help, it was a test. And when Marlene didn't hand over the money, Tiana had moved to her backup plan. Whatever was wrapped in that brown paper wasn't a random stash. It was a trap. A trap meant for her. Marlene felt her stomach clench. She thought about Raymond, about his gentle voice on his deathbed saying, "Be patient with her, Marlene. She's not strong like you." Patience had made her blind, and blindness had put her in danger. Now, there was no more room for denial. Something far worse than money troubles was happening inside her daughter's world. And whatever Tiana had hidden inside that sewing box. It wasn't just dangerous. It was meant to destroy her. The house was silent except for the humming refrigerator and the pounding of Black Marlene Holt's own heartbeat. She stood in front of the sewing box, the same box she had carried to school for years, letting troubled kids sew patterns to calm their minds. But today, that box felt contaminated. Her hands trembled as she slowly unzipped it. The familiar sound, once comforting, now sliced through her chest like a blade. She lifted the top tray of needles, thread spools, and carefully folded fabric swatches. And there, hidden beneath her favorite cobalt blue cloth, was the brown paper bundle. Tiana had tucked it deep, like a secret she wanted Marlene to discover only when it was too late. Marlene sat down heavily on a kitchen chair, throat tight, stomach twisting. Her fingers shook as she unwrapped the paper. The moment the plastic bag inside revealed itself, Marlene's blood went cold. Inside were small, blue pills. A full bag of them, maybe 100, maybe more, even without checking. She recognized them. Oxycont, and the type she'd seen in news reports, the kind that destroyed families. The kind students whispered about behind school bathrooms. The kind you didn't keep unless you were sewing. Her breath caught. Her kitchen blurred. The world tilted. Her only daughter, had hidden hard drugs in her sewing box. But it wasn't just the pills that made Marlene's stomach drop. It was the realization of why they were there. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't a mistake. This was deliberate, a setup, a frame. Job. Marlene pressed her hand to her forehead, fighting back a wave of dizziness. Memories flashed through her mind like harsh spotlights. Tiana's weight loss, her trembling hands, her bloodshot eyes. Her sudden bursts of anger. Her desperation for money. For months, Marlene had explained everything away as grief. Stress, depression, heartbreak. But this was different. This was betrayal. She had spent 25 years protecting kids from street life, from bad choices, from dangerous friends. But she had failed to protect the one kid who mattered most, her own child. Tears burned her eyes before she even realized she was crying. Not since Raymond's funeral had she cried like this, helpless, gutted, undone. How long had Tiana been using? Selling? Lying? And worst of all, how long had she been planning to destroy her own mother to save herself? Because that's what this was, not just addiction. Not just desperation, a plan to let police find drugs in Marlene's belongings, plan to let her take the fall, a plan to wipe out the one person who still stood between Tiana and the ruin she'd created. Marlene wrapped the pills back in the paper, her fingers growing steadier as a different emotion rose inside her, a colder one. Determination. If Tiana wanted war, she had chosen the wrong opponent. Marlene had survived decades in Atlanta classrooms, standing toe-to-toe with kids hardened by life. She had broken up fights, calmed down rage, kept children from destroying themselves and others. She knew how people thought when they were desperate, including her daughter. She inhaled deeply, wiping her face with the back of her hand. Tiana thought she was the only one making moves. Tiana thought her mama was blind. Tiana thought Marlene would fold easily, but she had miscalculated. Because today, Marlene wasn't just a grieving widow or a gentle teacher trying to save a broken daughter. She was a woman fighting for her life, and she wasn't going to lose. With the brown paper bundle hidden away again, Black Marlene Holt stood at the bottom of the staircase, staring upward. Every step felt heavier than the last. She had to know the truth, the real truth, not the excuses, not the lies. Just before she reached the landing, she froze. A voice slipped through Black Tiana Holt's closed bedroom door, urgent, shaky, almost pleading. I told you, Victor, I just need another week. Marlene pressed her back against the hallway wall, heart pounding as the pieces began to fit together in sickening clarity. My mama's being difficult about the money, but I'm working on it. I promise I'll have the whole $30,000 tomorrow night. $30,000. The same amount Tiana demanded last night at dinner. Marlene bit down hard on her bottom lip, fighting the instinct to rush in, grab her daughter, and shake the truth out of her. But this required silence, stillness, clarity. If Tiana was planning something, Marlene needed to hear it. No, Victor, please don't do that. Tiana's voice cracked. You hurt me. You'll never get your money. Just give me till Saturday, please. A heavy thud sounded, maybe Tiana pacing, maybe kicking something in frustration. Then came another call. Miss Chen? It's Tiana. Yeah, I know I'm late on the house loan payment, but I'm getting the money tomorrow. No, you won't have to start the process to take the house. Marlene's knees buckled. The house. The house. Tiana had used her home, her sanctuary, the one she built with Raymond, as collateral for a loan she didn't even know existed. Her signature must have been forged. Her daughter had gambled away money she didn't have, borrowed from a loan shark, and now owed a drug dealer named Victor. The room spun out 20 minutes later. Tiana walked out of her room wearing business clothes, hair neatly done, pretending like nothing was wrong, heading out for that job interview, Ma. She called downstairs. Wish me luck. Marlene didn't answer at first. COULD and single quotes T. She waited, instead silent, calculating, listening to Tiana's car pull out of the driveway, Then she went upstairs the moment Marlene opened the bedroom door. Chaos spilled out, papers stuffed under pillows, drawers half open, the sour smell of anxiety in the air. Old teacher instincts kicked in. She searched with precision. With purpose. With the sharp eye of a woman who had spent her life uncovering secrets kids didn't want her to see. And then she found everything. Bank statements showing $10,000, $5,000, $3,000. Cash withdrawals over the last 4 months, credit card bills with absurd cash advances, River City casino receipts with staggering losses, and then a thick envelope with loan documents. Miss Amy Chun, loan. Amount, $50,000 collateral. House at 214 Carver Court, Borrower signature, Marlene Holt. Marlene's stomach twisted. Her name, her signature. Forged. Her daughter hadn't just stolen money, she had stolen her future. Tiana had gambled away cash she didn't have, borrowed from a loan shark using forged documents, and when she still couldn't pay, she turned to a drug dealer named Victor, likely planning to sell Oxy to cover the rest. Now, both people wanted their money back, and Tiana had decided the easiest way to get it was to destroy the one person she had left, her own mother. Marlene stared at the mess of lies spread across the bed, the evidence of a daughter spiraling into darkness. Betrayal settled deep into her bones, but instead of breaking, she straightened. She took photos of every document, every forged signature, every gambling receipt, every phone number scribbled on scraps of paper, because if this went to court, she needed proof that she wasn't crazy, proof that she hadn't imagined her daughter's decline, proof that Tiana had crossed a line no mother should ever face. Marlene placed everything back exactly where she found it, untouched, invisible, waiting for the next move. But inside her, something had shifted. This wasn't just motherly heartbreak anymore. It was survival. Pure, cold, calculated survival. Because now Marlene fully understood the truth. Her daughter wasn't just drowning. She was willing to pull her mother down with her. And Marlene wasn't going to let that happen. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. Black Marlene. Holt stood in the middle of her daughter's bedroom, surrounded by lies, paper lies, financial lies, survival lies, all hidden in plain sight. But she wasn't done. Not yet. There's one last drawer. One last place where truth might be shoved away like dirt swept under a rug. She pulled the dresser drawer open. Her breath caught. Inside were the final missing pieces of her daughter's double life: casino vouchers. Sports betting slips. Phone numbers written on scraps of paper labeled Victor, emergency only. Receipts for ATM withdrawals at random hours of the night. Every slip of paper was another knife in her heart. Then she found the worst of it: documents tied together with a flimsy rubber band, loan agreements, foreclosure warnings, interest rates so high they were practically criminal, all addressed to her. All signed with a forged signature that barely tried to look like hers. Lord, have mercy. Marlene whispered, her voice cracking. For months, she'd watched her daughter fall apart, crying, shaking, lying, thinking it was grief. But this wasn't grief. This was addiction. Gambling. Debt to dangerous people. Criminal choices. Spiraling out of control. And Tiana had been digging herself deeper and deeper, using her mother as the shovel. Marlene sat on the edge of the unmade bed, the weight of betrayal pressing down on her chest. All those nights Tiana claimed she was at work or at a friend's house or job hunting. She had been in a casino losing money she never had, then borrowing money she couldn't pay. Back. Then turning to the drug world. Then planning to sacrifice the only parent she had left to protect herself. Her daughter had become Someone she didn't recognize. Someone Raymond wouldn't recognize either. Marlene closed her eyes and saw his face warm, gentle, still believing Tiana could be saved. But Raymond had never imagined this. She opened her eyes again. Hardened now, focused up, Marlene pulled out her phone and took photos of everything, every forged signature, every receipt, every betting slip. She documented it all with the precision of someone who knew how to build a case. Then she placed every item back, exactly where she found it, not out of tenderness but strategy. She was done reacting, got it. Was time to plan that. She walked downstairs, each step deliberate, controlled. The sewing box sat on the kitchen counter, quiet and innocent again, as if it hadn't held a bag of drugs. Designed to ruin her life, Marlene picked it up and held it for a long moment. This sewing box had been her refuge for years. A place of calm. A place she shared with kids who needed comfort. And with the daughter who once sat beside her learning how to thread a needle. Now it was a crime scene, a battlefield. Turning point. She set it down. Gently, then she wiped her cheeks, squared her shoulders, and whispered to herself, Tiana thinks she's the only one who can play this game. But she forgot who taught her how to think. Her voice deepened, steady as stone. I survived every kind of child they sent me in that classroom for 25 years. I can survive my own, because this wasn't about anger anymore, or grief, or motherhood. It was about survival, and Marlene Holt wasn't about to be destroyed, not by loan sharks, not by drug dealers, and not by her own daughter, not without fighting. Backed up, the house felt unnaturally. Still as black, Marlene Holt stood in her kitchen, staring at the brown paper bundle she had pulled from her sewing box. The very thing her daughter planted to destroy her was now sitting in her hand, light in weight, but heavy with consequence. She exhaled slowly, steadying her breath. Tiana thought she could corner her, trap her, make the police, walk straight into this kitchen, and end Marlene's life in one afternoon. But Tiana had forgotten something. Mother wasn't weak. Her mother wasn't blind. Mother had been a teacher in Atlanta public schools for 25 years, and she knew every trick a desperate kid could think of. Marlene placed the wrapped pills on the counter, then walked to the window overlooking the driveway. Tiana's gray Toyota Camry sat there, the car Marlene helped her buy after Raymond died. For years, it symbolized hope, opportunity, independence. Now it was the perfect place for a truth to surface. Right then, the front door creaked open and Tiana's voice floated in from the hallway. Ma, my car's making weird sounds again. I'm just gonna Uber to that interview. Don't want to get stranded. Another lie. The ease in her voice made Marlene's jaw clench, but she kept her tone soft, warm, believable. Good thinking, baby, she called back. Better safe than sorry. She waited. She listened to the Uber door close, listened to her daughter's footsteps fade down the walkway, listened for silence. When it came, she moved. Marlene grabbed the Camry's keys from the hook by the back door and stepped outside. The air was warm, buzzing faintly with the hum of cicadas. She unlocked the trunk with a soft click. Inside lay jumper cables, a dusty spare tire, a half-used bottle of motor oil, and an old gym bag Tiana hadn't touched in months. Perfect. Marlene lifted the gym bag, then tucked the brown paper-wrapped pills deep into the corner near the wheel, well hidden but not invisible. Concealed but not too concealed. Anyone searching for evidence would find it without hesitation. Marlene stood there a moment, the trunk open, the muggy Georgia air thick around her. She thought about Raymond, his calm nature, his patience, his belief that their daughter would grow into her better self. But Raymond never lived long enough to see Tiana fall this far. He would have never imagined she could betray her own mother. Lord. Marlene whispered, her voice breaking. If I'm wrong, forgive me. But if I'm right, Help me survive her? She closed the trunk, back inside. The sewing box waited on the counter looking almost innocent again. Empty of its poison, stripped of danger. Marlene. Wiped the counter. The box lid. The handles. Every surface Tiana might have touched. Every trace of the trap was scrubbed away with the same thoroughness she used to sanitize her classroom after flu season. She wasn't hiding evidence. She was reclaiming her house. Her phone buzzed. A text from Tiana. Interview went great. I'll hear back Monday. Love you, Ma. Marlene stared at the message with a hollow expression. Once. Those words would have melted her. Once. They meant safety and home. But today they were just another lie in a long list of lies. Marlene placed the phone down. Her movements calm, eerily calm. The kind of calm that came after heartbreak hardened into resolve. Daughter had crossed a line. Not a small line. Not a momentary lapse. A line you don't get to come back from. And Marlene wasn't just protecting her dignity. She was protecting her life. She reorganized her sewing box, perfectly threads lined up by color. The blue fabrics folded precisely, scissors cleaned. Everything in its place. To anyone, it would look like the peaceful corner of a crafty Southern woman preparing for her weekend fare. But now it was something else. It was bait. It was evidence of innocence. It was the first move of a woman who refused to go down quietly. Tiana had built her trap with arrogance. Marlene had just rebuilt it with intelligence. And when her daughter came home, she would walk into a house that looked just as she left it, warm, calm, predictable. Except for one thing. The hunter was now the prey. The evening sunlight slanted across the living room walls when Black Tiana Holt returned home. Her shoulders were relaxed, her steps light, her face brighter than Marlene had seen in months. Too bright. Too relieved. Interview went great. Ma, Tiana said with forced cheer, hanging her jacket over a kitchen chair. They said I'll hear back Monday. I think this is finally my break. Marlene nodded from the couch, keeping her voice soft and motherly. That's wonderful, baby. You deserve a win. But she didn't miss the way Tiana avoided looking toward the kitchen counter where the sewing box sat clean. Innocent, untouched. A liar always checks the trap. Tiana headed upstairs. Her steps were too fast. Too eager. Marlene lowered the TV volume and listened. At first, silence. Then the crack in her voice, the urgency. The reason everything was about to explode. Yes. I need to report drug dealing. Marlene closed her eyes. The words burned through her. My name is Tiana Holt. My mother, Marlene. Holt has been hiding oxy in her sewing box. I saw her with a huge amount this morning. Each lie was a bullet. She listened to her own daughter describe her like a criminal age. Habits, sewing box location, the exact place she expected the drugs to be found. She has dangerous friends coming by. I'm scared. Please hurry. I think she might move the drugs. Marlene felt her chest tighten. She wasn't surprised anymore. She was simply numbed. The girl she raised, clothed, fed, prayed for, was now betraying her with perfect precision. But Tiana wasn't done. Not even close. Victor, it's done. Cops are on their way. She'd be arrested before sunset. You'll get your money tomorrow. Marlene placed a hand over her mouth, steadying herself. This was no longer just a daughter making bad decisions. This was a daughter orchestrating her mother's downfall. Miss Chun, everything's on track. Once she's locked up, I'll have access to everything. I'll pay the loan in full. Loan.house.everything.tiana wasn't trying to hurt her mother. She was trying to erase her. Marlene's heart cracked open again, but this time, no tears came. Only clarity, only strength, only resolve. 12 minutes later, blue and red lights washed through the curtains. 3 police cars pulled into the driveway, followed by an unmarked sedan. Marlene stood slowly. She was ready. Tiana rushed downstairs, fake panic plastered across her face. "Ma, there are cops outside." "What's going on?" Her acting was flawless. Too flawless. The doorbell boomed through the house. "I'll get it." "Baby," Marlene said softly. She walked toward the door with the calm of a woman who had already accepted what needed to be done. She looked back once, Tiana's face tight, wide-eyed, pretending innocence. But in the mirror behind her, Marlene caught the real expression. Cold, calculating, hungry for the moment. Her own mother was dragged away, and she thought she had already won. Marlene opened the door to Officer Darius Wilson. Tall, broad-shouldered, mid-30s. One of her old students from her teaching days in Atlanta. Behind him stood 2 DEA agents in tactical vests. "Mrs. Holt," he said, voice respectful but heavy. "We need to speak with you." "Of course, Darius." "Come in." Tiana rushed forward, laying the performance on thick. "Officer Wilson, please." "My mother would never do something like this." I don't know what's happening." Darius squinted, studying her. Experienced eyes, suspicious eyes. "We received a detailed report," he said. "It stated the oxy's being kept in your sewing box, ma'am." "Oh," Tiana said quickly, too quickly. "I can show you exactly where it is." Marlene lifted an eyebrow. The show was beginning. They walked into the kitchen. Tiana pointed dramatically. "That's the box." She was acting real nervous with it this morning. The lead agent photographed it from every angle, then opened it with careful hands. Tiana leaned forward, eyes shining with anticipation. The agent searched and found nothing. Each pocket empty, every spool neatly organized, every tray innocent. Just a sewing box. "Ma'am," the D agent said, confused. "There are no controlled substances here." Tiana's face drained. White. Shock. Panic. "That's impossible." She blurted, I saw something wrapped in brown paper." Marlene tilted her head. "Baby, what exactly did you think you saw?" Tiana's breath hitched. Her mask cracked. Officer Wilson stepped closer. "You seem awfully certain about what's inside your mother's sewing box." "Why is that, Tiana?" I was just trying to help." Darius's expression hardened. "We're going to need to search your vehicle." "My car?" Tiana choked. "Why my car?" "I'm the one who reported it." But the D agents were already walking outside. Tiana stumbled after them, panic now flooding her voice. The trunk opened. The gym bag was moved. The brown paper glinted under the flashlight. The agent lifted the full bag of pills into the air. "Tiana Holt," Officer Wilson said, voice cold as winter steel. "You are under arrest for possession of OxyContin with intent to distribute and filing a false police report." Tiana stared at Marlene like she had just seen the devil. "You moved it," she whispered in horror. "You moved it." Marlene met her eyes, calm and unwavering. "Baby, I have no idea what you're talking about." And that was the moment Tiana finally understood. Mother was the better player. Flashing police lights painted the driveway in streaks of blue and red as black. Marlene Holt stepped outside behind the officers. The evening air was thick with Georgia humidity, but the tension was sharper, colder. Tiana followed close behind, her panic growing with every step. Gone was the confident daughter who made those secret calls. Gone was the girl who planned this downfall like a chess master. Now she was unraveling. "Why are you searching my car?" she demanded, voice trembling. "I'm the one who reported her." Officer Darius Wilson didn't even look at her as he motioned for the D agent to open the trunk. "Tiana, we search all relevant areas," he replied, including the vehicle parked at the scene. Her breathing turned jagged. Her hands shook. Her eyes darted between the officers and Marlene, like she was watching her entire world collapse, and she was The lead agent lifted the trunk door. The gym bag sat where Marlene had left it, harmless looking. Dusty from months of neglect, the agent pulled it aside, then paused. Her gloved hand reached down and lifted the brown paper package. Tiana's face went ghost white. The agent peeled back the edges, revealing the clear plastic bag filled with blue oxy pills, hundreds of them, glimmering under the flashlight. Found it, the agent announced. Tiana stumbled backward as if struck. No. No, that's not mine. That's not mine. She whirled toward Marlene, eyes wide with desperation, betrayal, shock. You moved it. She screamed, voice breaking. You moved it. You set me up. Mama, how could you do this to me? Marlene didn't flinch, didn't blink, didn't raise her voice. She simply clasped her hands calmly in front of her. Her expression steady. Baby, she said softly. I don't know what you're talking about. Officer Wilson stepped forward, his face somber, now not the boy she once taught, but a man doing his duty. Tiana Holt, you are under arrest for possession of OxyContin with intent to distribute, and for filing a false police report. The officer turned her around gently but firmly. Pulling her arms behind her, the metallic click of the handcuffs echoed across the driveway like the final punctuation of a long, tragic sentence. Tiana shook violently, eyes filled with terror. Officer Wilson, please. I didn't mean for any of this. I just shush, Mama, please do something. Marlene felt something deep inside her crack, but she stood silent. She had no more tears left, no more illusions. Only the truth, and the truth was cold. You cannot save someone determined to destroy you. The D agent read Tiana her rights. Another agent photographed the pills, the trunk, the gym bag, the evidence markers. Everything moved with methodical precision. Tiana kept twisting to look at her mother. I didn't mean it. Mama, please help me. Why aren't you saying anything? Marlene met her daughter's eyes with a calmness that hurt more than rage ever could. Tiana, she said quietly, I have always tried to help you. The words hung in the thick air like a final goodbye. The agents escorted Tiana toward the police cruiser. She tried to dig her heels into the ground, resisting, sobbing now, mascara streaking down her face. Mama, don't let them take me. Mama, do something. But the door closed on her screams, and for the first time in years, Marlene felt a strange, heavy silence settle over her. Not peace, not victory. Just the quiet truth of consequence. Officer Wilson turned to her. I'm sorry. Mrs. Holt, I truly am. She nodded. I know, Darius. This wasn't your doing. He took a breath, looking conflicted. We'll need you to come by the station tomorrow for a statement. But for tonight, you're free to stay home. Home. The same home Tiana tried to use as collateral. Same home Marley merely lost. The same home her daughter planned to. Sacrifice. Marlene watched from the porch as the cruisers pulled away, their lights dimming down the street. When the last car turned the corner, the night became quiet again, painfully quiet. Marlene closed the door, leaned against it, and let her eyes drift shut. Not in sorrow, but in acceptance. Her daughter had tried to destroy her, but instead, she had destroyed herself. 2 weeks later, Black Marlene Holt sat in the cold wooden pew of Fulton County Courthouse, hands folded tightly in her lap. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, harsh and unforgiving, just like the truth this courtroom was about to reveal. When the side door opened, Black Tiana Holt walked in wearing an orange jumpsuit, wrists shackled, ankles chained. She looked smaller, diminished, like all the bravado and manipulation had crumbled the moment the handcuffs clicked. Shut. Her once perfectly pressed hair was frizzy. Her cheeks were sunken. Her eyes no longer sparkled with schemes only fear. Marlene. felt her chest tighten but forced her gaze to remain steady. A mother's. Love wasn't a shield anymore. Not today. Not after. Everything. Tiana avoided her mother's eyes as deputies guided her to the defense table. She sat stiffly, lips trembling, trying to hold herself together. The prosecutor stood a sharp black woman in a navy suit whose voice carried authority. Your Honor, the state of Georgia will demonstrate that the defendant, Tiana Holt, was found in possession of 100 OxyContin pills with clear intent to distribute. Furthermore, she knowingly filed a false police report attempting to frame her own mother. The words echoed like a hammer striking stone. The judge, Judge Alonzo Martinez, a stern black man with a reputation for fairness, nodded, double quotes perceive. The evidence came out piece by piece, building a picture Tiana couldn't run from. The bag of pills found in her trunk, the brown paper wrapping her phone records, the 911 call she made, her statements about the sewing box. The timing of everything. Officer Darius Wilson took the stand, his voice steady. When we searched the mother's sewing box, no drugs were present. When we searched the defendant's vehicle, the drugs were found in her trunk, under her belongings. Tiana stared at the table, her face burning with humiliation. Then the prosecutor played the recordings of her phone calls to Victor, to Miss Chun, and the 911 call. The courtroom stiffened. Marlene closed her eyes for a moment, each word slicing her open again. Mama's being difficult. Cops are on the way. Once she's arrested, I'll have access to everything. There it was, the betrayal laid out publicly, without disguise, without spin, a lifetime of love reduced to cold evidence. The defense pleads for Mercediana's court-appointed attorney Rose, voice gentle. Your Honor, my client is an addict, a grieving daughter who spiraled after losing her father. She made terrible, desperate choices, but she is remorseful and seeking treatment. Remorse? Marlene felt the lie before the words even finished. Tiana finally lifted her head, searching her mother's face for softness, for forgiveness, for a way out. But Marlene's eyes were steady, sorrowful, but unbroken. She would no longer sacrifice herself to save someone who tried to destroy her. Tiana speaks, Judge. Martinez looked at Tiana. Miss Holt, do you have anything to say before sentencing? Tiana rose on shaky legs. Her voice was barely a whisper. I want to apologize to my mother. She swallowed hard. I was desperate and I made terrible choices. I didn't mean for it to go this far. Marlene felt nothing, no warmth, no forgiveness, only the numb certainty of truth. That apology wasn't for her, it was for the judge. The sentence. Judge Martinez leaned forward. Tiana Holt, you are sentenced to 3 years in state prison for possession with intent to distribute, conspiracy, and filing a false police report. The gavel struck sharp, final, echoing through the courtroom like a permanent scar. Tiana gasped, grabbing the table for support. Tears streamed down her face. Mama, please. But deputies were already taking her away. For the first time in her life, Marlene didn't move toward her child, didn't reach out, didn't try to save her, because saving her was what got them here in the first place. The aftermath, the prosecutor wasn't done. Your Honor, we also present evidence of forged documents connected to a $50,000 loan signed under the mother's name. That bomb revealed everything. Investigators confirmed the signature was fake. Handwriting experts backed it. Phone records supported the timeline. Financial trails matched the gambling addiction. And with Tiana in custody, the rest began to unravel fast. Miss Amy Chan, the loan shark, fled the state. Victor Martinez, the drug dealer, vanished soon, tracked by federal marshals. The forged loan documents were ruled void. Marlene's house had never legally been at risk. Investigations into both Amy and Victor escalated into federal cases. Officer Wilson personally updated Marlene outside the courthouse. Tiana's cooperation might reduce her time, but she's serving at least 2 years inside. 2 years for Tiana to think. 2 years for Marlene to heal. 2 years of distance. She never asked for, but desperately needed. As Marlene walked out of the courthouse, a heavy truth settled over her. Her daughter was alive, her home was safe, and she had survived the person she never imagined she needed protection from. 1 month after the sentencing, Black Marlene Holt stood in the center of the home she had lived in for over 25 years. The sun filtered through the blinds onto the hardwood floor as she and Black Raymond Holt refinished together the summer before he died. The memories clung to the walls like gentle ghosts, warm, soft, familiar, but now they also carried pain. And betrayal, and the weight of what her daughter had done. The house no longer felt like sanctuary. It felt like evidence. Marlene ran her hand over the kitchen counter one last time, tracing the place where the sewing box once sat, where her life nearly ended because of her own child. Then she whispered the decision she'd been holding inside. It's time to let go. A house full of history and hurt. Officer Darius Wilson had asked her gently when she told him she was selling the home. Mrs. Holt, are you sure? This is your husband's house, your daughter's house, your roots. Marlene gave him a tired, bittersweet smile. Darius, my husband is gone, and the daughter I raised ain't the one who tried to destroy me. I need peace. Peace ain't in these walls anymore. So she called a realtor. She packed carefully. She sorted through decades of memories. Photos of Raymond smiling beside her, Tiana's childhood artwork, quilts she made during late-night conversations, letters, birthday cards, old school papers. Some items went into boxes marked keep, others into donate. Few painful reminders went into a bin she refused to open again. The house sold in 3 weeks. Cash offer. No hassle. Just freedom. A new place. A new life. 4 months later, Marlene stood on the small balcony of her new apartment in Noonan, Georgia, a quiet town with tree-lined streets, friendly neighbors, and none of the darkness she left behind. The sunrise painted the sky with soft amber and gold, the kind of colors that made the world feel hopeful again. She inhaled the cool morning air. It smelled like possibility. Her new place was modest but perfect. 1 bedroom, a sunlit corner for her sewing machine, a quiet living room overlooking the courtyard, a kitchen small enough to feel cozy again, and most importantly, no secrets. No lies. No threats. Just peace. An unopened letter on her counter sat a single envelope. Her name written in Tiana's trembling handwriting. A letter from prison. Marlene had moved it from the old house. Set it on the counter, picked it up. Put it back down. 20-7 days passed. She still hadn't opened it. Some wounds weren't meant to be reopened. Some relationships were safer left in silence. The envelope stayed sealed. The world moves forward. Officer Wilson had visited her not long ago with updates. Victor Martinez was arrested in Detroit. Big case. He's not getting out for a long time. And Amy Chen, still running, but her loan operation is finished. She won't touch Georgia again. Marlene nodded, quietly thankful but not celebrating. These weren't victories, they were just endings. And endings weren't always triumphs. Sometimes they were simply necessary. Choosing herself, Marlene placed her sewing box clean, safe, reborn in the corner of the living room. The same box that once held betrayal now would hold new beginnings. She opened it softly, touching the threads and fabrics that had always brought her peace. In this new life, she didn't owe anyone her pain. She didn't owe anyone her loyalty. She didn't owe anyone Her destruction not even her daughter. Love had limits when survival was at stake. Some bridges become ashes. And that is their final form. Marlene finally understood that protecting her own soul didn't make her heartless. It made her wise. The truth she carried forward as she watched the sun rise higher. Warming her balcony, she whispered the truth she had learned through fire. Sometimes the closest ones are the ones who can destroy you. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away. She picked up her first quilt piece in her new home, the fabric soft in her hands. Her life wasn't ending. It was beginning, and this beginning belonged entirely to her.